It's like we're on a leash, isn't it? So in a sense, I mean, we have minimum power, but we can't go that much further without being cut off our chain and having that independence.
A good point to make, because it's often an argument that's often brought up by no advocates, are jobs, like jobs in the armed forces and jobs in kind of British-based employment. But you know, if you're going to say that Westminster are actually going to protect jobs for the majority of people in Scotland, then you're barking up the wrong tree, because the way they're going just now, and the amount of people you see, especially in my community, especially in your community, and kind of more kind of working class communities, unemployment's going like that every single year. Homelessness is increasing, unemployment's increasing, the gap between the rich and the poor is increasing. If you're going to talk about
using the food banks now, it's at an all-time high.
0-hour contracts are prevalent. Our minimum wages, our state pension's the lowest in Europe. If you want to,
benefits are one of the lowest as well.
Our benefits are one of the lowest in Europe. You know, if you want to protect employment and what goes with it, vote yes. Don't vote no. You're not protecting employment if you're voting no.
Benefits up. How are they actually expecting people to live these days?
You know, instead of selling off industry and national institutions like the NHS and the Royal Mail, laying off hundreds and hundreds of public sector workers, revitalise it. Pump the money we get from our assets into it and regenerate it. Create more jobs instead of just saying, oh, well, it's not making any money, so we had to shut it down and lay 10,000 people off. It's just barbaric government.
Like, if we give a tax cut to the rich, where does the money go? It goes into their savings account. It goes into, like, if they do spend it, it will go into property. If you have wealth which is given to working classes, it's shown that they will spend it because they need to spend it. It's the only way they can live. They say that having a high tax rate is anti-business, but business would obviously prosper if you have the working classes having more money, if you actually have high taxes for the rich and lower taxes for the low.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
We spend the money, goes back into the system.
But that's not the way it works for Westminster. We'll give our friends more money, more and more money every year, year in,
The
year out.
obsession with business really, it's just a really off-putting trait about the no camp. Everything has to be about, you know, we're tough on the cheats and the scroungers and the knuckle draggers, but you know we're right behind big prosperous business and you know the self-made man, and that it's just utter bollocks. Excuse my French.
They always tell us about that, like you were talking about earlier, the Bulgarians, the Romanians coming, focusing on the immigration, all the stuff you were saying, the scroungers, but they're not really telling us about the bankers who put us in this debt in the first place back in 2008, put us into the banking crisis, and then still they got their bonus at the end of the year, which was 5 million. It's like
you want to see
how does that
Benefit
make
Street,
sense?
go to the House of Lords.
Exactly, like people earning £100 a week on benefits, and that people putting us in a banking crisis, then getting 5 million. Where, like, how's that way up? Like,
I mean, I've got a friend on Job Seekers. He gets £46 a week, and I mean, he lives with his mum, you know, his parents and stuff just now. But if he was living on his own, simply just on Job Seekers while he looks for a job, or he's not got any like illnesses or disabilities that he's entitled to claim more for, living on £46 a week.
the media picks and chooses what they want to show us, and then you speak to people in the street and they're like, oh, all the immigrants coming over here, stealing our jobs. But if you actually look, they're not. The scroungers stealing all the money. What, £100 a week or 5 million? It's like you would need hundreds of thousands of people on benefits to even accumulate what these bankers are earning. It's just ridiculous.
Just a final point that I wanted to make on the whole debate. There's a misconception that independence is only about the SNP. You support the SNP if you support independence and vice versa. You don't. There are other alternatives out there. And I'm sitting next to a guy here who doesn't support SNP. I'm presuming you don't support SNP either. I don't know about the rest of you, but you know, there's organisations, there's pressure groups, there's activism realms, there's the Scottish Socialist Party, the Scottish Greens factions, the Scottish Labour. You know, it's not just about one party.
Even some Lib Dems for yes.
Even some Lib Dems for yes. And it's a message that needs to be pushed stronger, because everyone always says, oh, I didn't like Alex Salmond, I don't like his rhetoric, I don't like it, so I'm not voting yes. It's like, well...
It's because of one person that you're voting no because of one person. It's
Exactly.
but I'm not saying this because it's because I do support the SNP, but the people going, oh, if you do it now, it's going to next couple of years it's going to be horrible. It says, what about the next 20 or 30 years? You need to look at your children and then their children at the same time. You want the best future for yourself and your children at the same time. You don't want them going to a society that only cares about money and popularity, and that's what most of them care about. It's like, for instance, David Cameron spending millions and millions of pounds on bribing people to say no. All these big companies, that's...
Scotland's very working class. You cannot enforce private middle class laws on a working class nation. We cannot let that happen. We have to become independent to stop that. And also the NHS is being privatised, or what's going to try to be privatised by Cameron. The only way we can let that not happen is by becoming independent. To save the future, we have to.